Welcome back to another video. Today I have a 20 by 30 canvas, a jar of water, spray bottle, a paint palette wrapped in plastic wrap so I don't have to put any paints down the sink. I'll be using mid yellow, crimson red, phthalo blue, burnt sienna, cadmium free yellow and titanium white. I have a long flat brush, a cat tongue brush, a liner brush, a short flat brush, a small filbert brush and a wide flat brush. All the materials I'll be using are listed in the description, so you can go and have a look, and there's links to everything over there. I'm just going to start off by spraying my canvas, just so my surface area is nice and wet and the colours can blend together really beautifully. Grabbing my long flat brush, I'm going to mix an orange colour. Well, actually no, I'm going to start off first with the yellow and a bit of white. Okay, and I'm going to start this off in the center here. I'm going to go all the way to the top, just like so. Now, grabbing that same yellow, I'm going to mix in some red until we have a nice orange color. And I'm now going to push that onto the sides. And I'm actually going to kind of bring it across the bottom as well. It kind of looks messy, but it will make sense in the end, so just trust the process. Okay, now cleaning out my brush and grabbing a little bit of that burnt sienna, not too much, I'm thinning it down with some water. I'm going to go down the edges over here and paint all the sides with that burnt sienna color. I'm just grabbing more of that burnt sienna there. Okay, now we have this kind of these three colors. Add white directly down the middle. Okay, having my wide flat brush, I'm going to leave it dry and I'm just going to start stroking it up. And I'm going to flip it round. I'm going to do the same to the other side. And I'm going to slowly move out towards the burnt sienna. And then again, I'm going to, as I come from this side to this side, I'm going to move my brush. Then get a cloth. So grabbing a cloth, I'm going to remove any excess paint. And then going down, I'm going to blend out okay, so we've now got this really beautiful blend. So we have our first layer set down. I'm going to let this dry before coming in for a second layer. For the second layer, I'm not going to wet my canvas again. I'm only going to make sure that I have a nice wet brush, but I'm not going to wet my surface, only my brush and my paints. I'm going to start off with the same process of using some yellow. This time maybe adding a bit more white so the color is lighter. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to be painting, making sure that my brush is staying nice and wet. Then going straight in and mixing that orange. Making sure that the paint is not too thick in its consistency, otherwise it's going to dry very fast onto the canvas. And you'll see this time, this layer, this is where we get the colors to really pop out and stand out. So you can see this here is much more opaque than that first layer that we did. And that's exactly what we want, because now we have that base layer underneath, and now we can build on top of that with, we can build on top of it with a new layer. I'm just mixing my orange as I go, making sure to add it at the bottom as well. Keep your brush nice and wet, just so that your painting does not dry as you're applying the colors. And then I'm going to go straight into my burnt sienna. Again, wet brush, so my paint can be as light and thin. With acrylics, it is much more manageable to work in layers. It takes more patience, but it is, I find that people can paint and you get better results when you don't try and do everything in one go and actually try to just paint things in layers. Okay, so go doing the exact same thing that we did. I'm going to grab this brush and I'm going to start buffing out. I'm going to start buffing out the colors in between the yellow and the orange. And I'm going to flip my brush around and start doing the same thing here. Just going forward and backwards until you can see there's a nice blur between the colors. Okay, so that's nicely blended. I'm going to now go and blend the orange and the burnt sienna. Those blend beautifully together because they are very close in shade. Then removing any excess color from my cloth. And then I'm going to be dragging and then with the bottom part I'm going to kind of be very just slow and little with it. Because I don't want the yellow to get overwhelmed from the top. So I'm just kind of brushing it out as I go. Okay, so that is all really nice and blended together now. Grabbing my long flat brush again, I'm going to start creating these silhouettes. I'm going to start off with my yellow and I'm going to kind of start drawing these lines, and then with your blending brush you can kind of blend it out, kind of doing kind of creating and then going into those orange. I'm going to grab some orange with my tree and I'm going to start by kind of going up. So mixing more of that orange colour together. And then doing it again here. Okay, and then I'm going to start just drawing some more basic lines. And then kind of doing some upward brushes to kind of connect the trees and the foreground. Reminding myself that this is not a realistic forest, this is very much a kind of fantasy, semi-abstract. So like this, we've kind of got a bit of texture going at the front. So I'm going to mix in some more orange, and I might bring so I'm just kind of go a bit darker with sometimes, and then doesn't have to be perfect. We just want the sizes to be different. The colors and the shades. Sometimes you want them to be leaning forward. Okay, we're going to be kind of blending out that bottom part. Okay, and then grabbing some of that burnt sienna, again with a wet brush. I'm going to kind of draw as if there's like a big tree on the side. Maybe draw some branches. Just holding my brush very loosely. I'm going to repeat this on the other side, kind of drawing a branch. Okay, so we've kind of got this blend of trees now, and I'm going to add a few branches that just wherever I can. I'm going to go in and add some color and some branches. Okay, So I think that's a really good for our base. And now I'm going to grab my cat tongue brush to grab some of that yellow and a bit of that white. So I've just popped some white there, and I'm going to do this by grabbing some yellow, grabbing some white. I'm going to start adding little petals falling from the trees. Turning my brush in different directions. Okay, so we have all of these beautiful leaves falling down. And what I'm going to do is swap to my filbert brush, or actually no, I'm going to swap to my short flat brush, and I'm going to go in with the mix of some red, some yellow, and even a bit of burnt sienna. And I'm going to go towards the bottom. Oh my gosh, stop budging, annoying me. Okay. We've kind of got those three colours that we're mixing together, just to add a different texture to so I'm going to keep doing that on both sides. Kind of doing like towards the bottom. So I just keep grabbing some of the red, then some of the yellow, and then coming back onto the canvas. This is kind of just doing some big strokes just to add some texture. Like so. And then grabbing my liner brush, I'm going to take in some of that white and mix that in with a little bit of the red and some of the yellow. And I'm going to start from the base and I'm going to kind of okay, if you don't like what I've, so I don't, this thing I don't like, so I'm just going to cover it. That's it. So if you do anything that you don't like, you can just go over with an old color. And I'm just going to add some highlights, and I'm also going to do little dots. just add okay, I added a few of these little fireflies. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my filbert brush and I'm going to take some of this blue and some of this white, and I'm going to add these for our contrasting colour. Just to make the painting pop out and not make all of the colours so simultaneously. So you can add a few pieces flying up and then also a few pieces that are slightly larger. So we've kind of got this magical forest where anything can be painted, and you can make it any color that you want. You do not have to do the colors that I am painting. I just specifically went for these colors because I'm very inspired by the seasons, and I just feel like with all of the warmth that we have around at the moment, all of the trees are changing colors, and it just feels really nice to paint with warm tones at the moment. Now going back in with my cat tongue brush, I'm going to grab some of this burnt sienna and some of this burnt sienna and some cadmium yellow. And I'm going to kind of go in and add little leaves to the forest. And you can add more yellow sometimes onto your brush. You don't have to only add, but I just want to fill up the trees a little bit more. Just because I feel like they're quite bare. And in autumn, the trees definitely still have stuff going on. The trees have leaves in autumn. And the more diverse colors you add, then the more interesting the painting is going to look, because you have more going on for the eye. See how pretty that looks. It just looks so... I'm just dragging my brush really gently okay, and I think that is beautiful in itself. And the last thing I'm going to do is paint a little bit of splatter with some yellow. So I'm going to grab my yellow and white like so, and then I'm going to mix water into it to make it lighter. Then grabbing another brush, I'm going to go towards the bottom of my canvas and I'm going to tap it and then a little bit towards the top as well to act as some leaves. And then I'm also going to grab whatever is remaining of that burnt sienna with the same brush, and I'm going to tap it towards that part, the edges. Like so. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and make sure to switch your notifications on. I post new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and I'll see you in the next video.